Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tip Tuesday. It's a little weird, right? A little different starting out our week on a Tuesday. But hopefully, you enjoyed yesterday, especially those of you that got to take a little break, have a little time off. I know that sure is nice for those that get the opportunity to do it and then fill it up however you wanted to. So, today, I'm really excited about our tip for today. I'm going to present a scenario to you from last week, and then we're basically going to go and talk about how do we narrow down a big list of stocks into something that's tradable and manageable in a given period of time. So, how do we take a list and then make that list so much smaller and also not just smaller, but more practical and usable? So, that's going to be our theme for today. So, I'm going to set this up by talking to you a little bit about last week. So, last week, as I was doing the study groups on Monday nights, my thought was that the market, after being down really big on Friday, and then really not doing much on Monday, dropped a little bit more. I thought, yeah, you know what? I could see this setting up as an opportunity where we see the market just make a really small move up with some of these stocks at really nice SPY points. Make a small move up, hit the EMAs on top, and then drop again later this week. So, let's be prepared for some really short little bullish trades, and we talked through some of those. Well, sure enough, Tuesday morning, market opens up. I'm like, yeah, all right, this is working. And then, uh-oh. It didn't take very long before the market was not going up anymore. So market was definitely dropping, 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 dropping. So the other scenario I presented to them was, well, guys, if it doesn't do this little short little up move this week, what could happen is that it could drop for days. It could get down to around 3,900, and then it could move up from there. But still, only up to the EMAs. I don't anticipate a big move up. So we're looking for fairly small moves anyway. But two different scenarios here, right? Of when we might see the actual move back up. So how do you create a list? Because obviously, if you had that list for Monday night, when I presented that list to Jared, by Tuesday morning, when I had written that in, I had several things to do that morning. But by the time I had gotten all that information out, I simply wrote in a ticker symbol and right out next to it, DEAD, dead. Like, that trade was demolished, just blown up. It was over. I was like, nope, that's not going to be any good. Not anywhere close to what we talked about. And several of those really failed and looked terrible all week. Some of them turned out to be pretty decent. Like, some of them worked really, really well. There were some of them we liked in particular that were pretty fantastic. So how do you shift gears, if you will, in the middle of a week like that? So you've got two scenarios. The market could go up really small here early this week, or it could drop several more days and then it recover later this week. So I go in with a mentality, oh, it's going to go up, but then it continues to drop. So how do I change, right, midstream, if you will? How do I fix my thought process and then adjust to this list of stocks, which maybe I had ready on, Sunday, Monday night, and now here it is Wednesday, and that list is completely blown up. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. How do we kind of walk through shifting our focus, understanding that things have changed, and then kind of talking through a list? And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go out here to a big list that I use, and I'll just go ahead and tell you what this list is. It's the all weekly list. So these are stocks which have expiration dates every Friday. So every Friday they have expirations that expire on that particular date. So these are what you would maybe term short-term options. Now, they're fantastic for debit spreads. You can also, of course, use this for credit spreads. Could you use it for short-term calls and puts? Absolutely. If you were looking at some naked stuff, obviously that would make sense too, depending on what your priorities were. So that's the list I'm going to use. And what you're going to realize is there's over 500 stocks in this list. So as we go through this list, you're going to find that it's pretty extensive here. And so as we work our way through it, you're going to see how we're wanting to narrow this down very quickly and how we'll be able to do that. All right, so here's a look at the S&P today. Just to look at what it did last week. So it went. So again, here we were. I think this is Tuesday. No, that was Monday. Right. So Monday. So Monday was the day after the big drop Friday. Little drop on Monday. That's when we had the thought maybe it'll go up here a little bit and then drop from there Tuesday, Wednesday, or it'll drop down here to 3,900. 3,903 is pretty close. It'll go to 3,900, then move up for a couple of days, hit that 10-day, and then we'll see what happens there. Well, obviously, we got the move up. We went from 3,900 all the way up to 4,000 and almost 20. So 120-point move over 2 days. But you can see definitely over here on the minute chart that was fairly short-lived even on Friday, because by the time we made the move on Thursday, and then when you made the move on Friday, it was over in a hurry and actually spent most of the day actually going all the way back down. So what we talked about is kind of what happened. We said, all right, so maybe later in the week it'll turn, it'll go up, but these are going to be really short-lived plays. All right, so if you have that mentality in mind, then you have to adapt and go, okay, I don't plan on being in these trades for a long time. They just talked about how they could go up for just a short time, and then maybe it turns down from there again. So I don't want to get caught in a bullish trade if the overall market is going to continue to go down, which is obviously what we're seeing a continuation of today. So how do we think through that? Well, let's go to our list, and what you'll see is this list has currently about 533 stocks in it. So obviously that's a big list. Now you say, Geoffrey, what's the advantage of having a big list like that? Well, it means I have a lot to choose from, but I don't want to trade a lot of them. So then what is my criteria for beginning to narrow this down? How can I create a usable list out of 533 that are not? Well, the first thing you guys might notice is I've got a lot of these flagged. All right, so why are some of these flagged? Now, some of these are flagged because I can go look for very particular patterns based off of a percentage move. Now, some of our advanced strategies. So the first thing I want to talk about is that I can narrow a list down by looking for a very particular type of trade setup or strategy. For instance, if there's a news move or a power spreads, these are some of our advanced courses that I teach. If there's a setup like that out there, well, I can flag those things, and then I can be watching those for very particular entry points. So that's one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to look very quickly and find certain setups just based off particular movements. The other thing that you can do is you can say, you know what, I know that I'm going to be looking in a particular price range. So before we get to that, let's just do this. So this is percentage change. And when I look at the percentage change, this may be listed as daily percentage change or something like that on your list. But basically what you're trying to do is see which stocks have moved the most this particular day. This is going to be both up and down. So as I scroll, you'll notice that you go from a high, the green numbers, down to a low. All right. So out of this list, BBBY is down the most at almost 16% today. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is how much is that actual move? Well, $1.38. Well, that's pretty sizable. DWAC is down almost 16% too. All right. Wow, down almost $4. And then we can see several other of these that are down. Now, you'll notice I do have some fairly low dollar stocks here. I mean, here's a 14-cent stock. That's basically not worth trading. And eventually it'll go off the exchange, so they'll get rid of that. But $3.20, $8.19, $4.67, $6. Here's one that's a buck, $1.43. So will I be doing much with those? Probably not. But if they're at good buy points and I want to do something with them, step one, just simply buy the stock because it's at a good pattern. Great. That applies. So we can go, and now our list, shows me a bunch of stocks that are down high percentage wise to a bunch of stocks. Well, relatively speaking, maybe not a bunch that are up high percentage wise. So Saba here, up 253 today. Well, why would this be helpful to me? Let's just say you don't know how to do news moves and power spreads. How would this be helpful to you? Very simple, guys. You know that one of my favorite patterns to look for is the flag pattern. Well, generally speaking, if a stock makes a big move like Sava is, and we get a big clear candlestick here, then at the very least, Sava has the potential of turning into a flag pattern. So flag it. All right? Flag it. It's a potential flag, so we'll flag it. If I see something like this, it's caught up in the EMAs. I'm not that interested in that. Something that's under the EMAs, all right, that means something very particular. So again, now my eyes are looking for very specific things. This stock is under EMAs. It could go up, hit those EMAs, and drop again. Maybe I'm interested in that. Well, it's a $1.21 stock, so I'm not too interested in that, but I could have been, right? So similar setup here with ILMN. Now ILMN is trying to gain some strength rather than dropping. It's trying to go up today. That doesn't really fit what I'm looking for, so I skip it, right? Now I could come back and say, wow, you know what, ILMN, that's interesting. So you're trying to gain a lot of strength when you should be showing weakness. Well, that tells me something, right? So I'm not going to point that one out today, but that is something a little bit more advanced where you might think through it going, wow, here's what you're supposed to be doing, but you're not doing that. So what does that really mean? Oh, maybe ILMN is trying to get some strength and it's going to bust up and end up here at the 50-day. You look at it and go, wow, 212. Well, that's still got maybe, a $6 move in it. So then I could kind of sit there and say, well, with negative market tone, do I trust this move up, or do I want to mess with that or not, or do I want to find something that's better? So I might flag it because there's some advanced stuff there that I think is pretty intriguing. But let's just say I'm a fairly newer student. I'm going to just space bar through that and just kind of look. And so now I'm just space barring through, just looking for some of these just to see if anything's interesting. The other thing that you're going to find sometimes is that you're going to find some uptrends that have started. Right, so we can find an uptrend or something that looks interesting. Now, all of a sudden, this looks kind of intriguing to me. I've already got it flagged. All right, so I'll be watching that one. This one I've got flagged, so I'll be watching that one. All right. And then what I'll also do while I'm scrolling down is I'm just trying to pick up on particular patterns. What things are arising? Is there anything that's at a horizontal buy point? Okay. So is it at a place where it's been previous support? Or if I were to pop in a line right here, would this stock be at support? It's not. It's doing weird things today. But could I pop in a diagonal line here to find support? If I'm scrolling through my list here and I find something like that, then I would include that in my list as well, and I would simply flag it. So let me go ahead and delete that line for now because obviously it's not that strong enough support. So we'll just keep scrolling through. So now I'm space barring through, and again, I'm just kind of looking at the highest movers for the day. I'm not seeing much so far. So now let's talk about the next thing I could do. So obviously I'm scrolling through all these, and I'm actually, as fast as I'm going, I actually am looking for particular things. So I haven't found what I'm looking for. And again, because now I'm looking for something very specific. And because I'm looking, well, let's go back here just a bit. All right, so this is a little bit of what I just talked about. So UAL is, or was at a horizontal buy point. Oh, man. All right. So let's just say you were doing this last week, which is when we're kind of running this scenario. So you're running through your list of stocks, and all of a sudden you see UAL. And let's pretend that we were back here, somewhere around this period. And you said, wow, look at those two lines right there. Those are two solid recoveries. So, it recovers, it goes up another day, it recovers, it goes up another day. What if I got into UAL around this $34 area? So what you could do, obviously, let's look at the low here. So 33.86. The low here was 33.73. So what you could do is you could come up here, set an alert, and say when UAL breaks below $34, let me know. So then if you're sitting there monitoring this, or you can get it set up to where it sends you like an email or text or things like that. It says, so when this thing breaks past 34, beep will go off on your computer. So now we're looking at this, and then sure enough, it broke past 34. So this day right here, when you were looking for this price point, you would have received an alert, and it would have said, hey, now might be a good time for you to go buy UAL. It's at your horizontal support. Boom, 34 bucks. I get in. What's my expectation? I think it's going to go up here to about 35, 50, maybe 36. So I'm going to, it's a 34 to $36 move. Okay, well, let's do that. So now we've already alerted ourselves back here. This was on Wednesday. So we alerted ourselves on Wednesday. We drew a line right here. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. We drew a line right here at $34, just south of $34, which let us know that this was a strong horizontal price point. All right, so now then we received an alert. We had an opportunity to get in at a strong horizontal support. We're only expecting a 2-day move. So if we entered on Thursday, we're looking at getting out probably on Friday. Wow. So where did we get to? 36.14 was our high, guys. 36.14. So here we are. We got alerted on Wednesday of a potential horizontal point, which hit on Thursday. We had an alert set on Thursday. If we responded to that alert, we got in at 34. Now we have the chance to get out on Friday at 36 bucks, Now, we got out. It hit the 10-day. That's all we expected. So great. But there's a perfect example of how we can go through a list. And again, it didn't take us very long, but we've gone through that list and we've narrowed it down and we found several things. So we were either looking for particular setups, or we were going down and we were looking for strategies. So we can find things like flags. We can find things like a horizontal price point like we did with UAL here, where we see, okay, that's two areas right there that was so solid. If we get down there again, I would love to hop in this thing for a 2-day move back up. Right. So again, you just kind of space barring through. You're looking for particular things, right? So again, you kind of look at this and go, well, is that a strong enough area of support? Now, it's not a very clear pattern, but maybe there's something there. And the last thing I would say today, guys, is if you know that you're looking for, let's just say, particular strategies like debit spreads, what you can do with this list is you can go over here by price. So what this is going to do is it's going to sort these from highest price to lowest price. Well, if I'm kind of looking at a 2-day move, I don't necessarily want to go out here and do something that's, up in the $1,000 ranges. Or, I mean, it's not that you couldn't, you certainly could. But I want to probably be down here in the $30 range, because that would be a good move, right? If I get something around the $30 range and it makes a good move up, let's just say it moves up $1 or $2 over a 2-day period. That would be fantastic. So let's start somewhere around like $40. And then let's just start looking for trade opportunities that might have occurred late last week, right? So we're going to start around 40 bucks. Oh, here's one, right? If it went down and tagged the 50-day, would we want to get in at the 50-day? So moving up off the 50-day, back up there, that made the move we were looking at. So to make $1, $2 move, but basically more like $1 move. All right, but it still did something. Oh, here's another one at the 50-day. All right, so that was a little trickier there. Okay, there's another one right at the 50-day. Apache, so that was oil and gas. All right. Oh, here's one that was already at horizontal support and the 50-day. Wow, look at that. Okay, so that made a nice move Thursday, Friday, really nice move. What did that end up being? $1, and then the high was 40 bucks, so 36 to 40. Whoa, that's way more than we expected. All right. So there we go. So again, now we're kind of looking at this going, okay, based on the conditions that I think I'm going to anticipate, I want to try to find something that's at, say, the 50-day, or that's at, a horizontal support, or that's in a pattern that I recognize would be better. Let's just say it was an uptrend. But remember, guys, the market had been down for 4 or 5 days. So most of our stuff is going to be moving down. So we're going to be looking for horizontal price points or EMAs to give us a sense that maybe this is ready to move up. So now, because we're being very specific about what we're anticipating, could we have found something like Zim and thought Zim was going to move up? Absolutely. Did it fail? Sure did. It never really moved up. But you might have been watching Zim. In fact, you can see I had it flagged. It just never materialized for what I was looking for, but that's okay. They won't do that. Okay. And that's okay. But at least we were ready for that. So again, now we're going out there and we can take this list and we can scroll through it rather quickly because again we have an expectation of what we're looking for either from a pattern perspective or from a general market movement. I'm going to get maybe this move in this amount of days, so this is my expectation. So now we're out there, and because we're looking for very specific things, it's going to allow us to go through a list that could be several hundred long very, very quickly because again we're looking for very specific things, and anything that doesn't meet that criteria, we're going to get rid of that. Okay. So that is our tip for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed that discussion and got a lot out of it. Janet, I see you had some questions here. So is that list in charts? That list is not in charts. If you guys want to see a list like that added, it would not be like extremely difficult. You can basically pull it from the Chicago Board of Options Exchange. They're the ones that make that list available to you. In fact, if you go to CBOE Weeklies, it's a trademark, WEEKLYS. It's actually a list that you can download. I think it comes in. It's like the grid format, so you can copy and paste that into your list if you know how to do that. So you can create your own list where it has that available if you're fans with that. Now, obviously, you don't have the technical analysis, so the list that Charts by Tradeway gives you, they've done the fundamental analysis for you. Whereas this list is just every stock that has weekly options. So the Chicago Board of Options Exchange just says, boom, they got weekly options. And then you can decide whether or not you want to trade them. Now, you're in theory going to be in them for very short periods of time. At least I am. So, is that company's fundamentals going to really highly impact that trade, over a 2 or 3 day movement? Probably not. Did it have a big impact on what they did for 2 or 3 days, Thursday, Friday? Probably not. In charts, you can create something, yes, and you would be able to transport that in there. I think I haven't done that personally, but I think you ought to be able to do that. All right. So, what percentage change am I looking for? Was the other question. It depends on what you're trying to do. But generally, anything over 3% is noticeable unless it's like, a dollar stock. But even then, I guess, man, if it's a dollar stock or one of those $5 stocks, 3% is like nothing. But 5% is a pretty big deal. Anything over 5% is pretty noticeable. It's either generally going to be a big candlestick up or down or a gap. So either way, that kind of helps you notice those things. So that's why I think that's really helpful to do. All right. Very good. All right. Well, guys, thanks for being with us today. I hope that you really enjoyed that because, again, the point of having a list isn't to say, oh, I've got 50 stocks that I could trade. Well, that's not 50 stocks you're going to trade. So we're trying to take 50 that look good. And this is what we do every Monday night. Well, I might have a list for, let's just say, debit spreads. I may have 10 stocks that I've kind of gone through twice. I normally do it twice. So I'll go through, I'll look and see anything on that list that I like. And then I'll go through and I'll just start to eliminate and say, okay, based on what I've seen, I like this one better than that one. I like this one better than that one. I like this one better than that one. So now I narrow that down to 10. And then we get to the live event on Monday nights. And then I'm going to narrow that list from 10 down to like 2 or 3. So now we're just going to eliminate even things that we really like and say, well, here's what I like better. So we're going to get really nitpicky. So that would be the final thing that we would do at this point, guys. We would take everything we had flagged And then we would go get very nitpicky. You know, how likely is this pattern to work? How repeatable, predictable, and reliable is this particular pattern? Wow, this stock is at that EMA. Well, that's a really strong place to be. Oh, you know what? This one kind of is nice, but it's a little messy here. Well, what about the EMAs on top? Maybe that creates maybe it's too small a movement, and I want to get a little bit bigger movement out of a similar stock over here. I mean, then maybe you look at it and you get into things like what are the strike prices? What are the bid ask spreads? That could come into play. You know, what are they offering me for a debit spread? What is the return on investment? So now you can start to get even like pickier here, right? If you have a list and you really feel like, man, I've still got like 5 of them that are really good. Well, just keep narrowing that down until you get to like 2 or 3. And then when you get to 2 or 3 and the conditions are right, go ahead and hop in those things. Well, that's our tip for today. Thanks for being on with us, guys. We'll see you next time.